So we continue with the nervous system. So we are on the part nerve. So we understood that there were three kinds of neurons. The sensory neuron, which is carrying the impulses from the sense organs to the spinal cord of the brain. The motor neuron, which is getting the commands from the brain or spinal cord to the effector muscle or the gland. And third is the association neuron, which is connecting these two sensory and the motor neurons. Next is the nerve. So neuron is just one particular cell which is running around, but we don't require just one over here. We need multiple number of neurons from one place to another place, right? So this multiple number of neurons, they are going to be bundled up, okay, like a cable. It will going to be bundled up such के each and every bundle के अंदर बहुत सारे neurons है. Such a bundle is called as the nerve. So the nerve is the bundle of neurons. So nerve is formed of a bundle of axons, nerve fibers, enclosed in a tubular medullary sheath. So in a particular sheath, there are multiple neurons which are going to be there bundled up to give you the resultant sense material, okay, sensation. Sorry. The sheath over the axon acts like an insulator and prevents mixing of impulses in the adjacent fibers. There are three kinds of nerves as described below. So, yes, all these neurons are going to be combined together and there will be a sheath. There will be an insulating sheath on top of it so that there is no interconnection. ऐसा नहीं हो जाए कि किसी ने मेरे को यहाँ पे टैप किया और मुझे पता चला कि यहाँ पे टैप किया है. Okay? If I want to move my this hand, it should happen that this hand is moving, right? So I want to move this hand, it will move only this one. I want to move this, it will only move this. It's not that ये move किया तो ये अपने आप move होने लगा, right? So that is similarly like in your house when you switch on the fan. Does the tube light automatically start by itself? No. Okay. One switch will operate one device. So accordingly, in our body also, the bundled up and the insulation sees to it that each and every neuron gives you a specific information and not jumbled up the information which you are getting. So there are three kinds of nerves, of course, the same way as what are the neurons, that is sense nerve, sensory nerve, sensory nerve. So of course, what is sensory nerve? Same thing, from sense organ to the brain, okay? So it contains only sensory neurons. So only sensory neurons are there. That is the optic nerve of the eye, an example of that thing. The next one will be motor neuron. Of course, that is the one which will have only motor nerves. So the one which has got only motor nerves or the motor neurons are the one which is going to be in the motor nerve. So it contains only motor neurons, for example, nerves going to the muscles of the eyeball. And finally, mixed nerve, which will have both. Okay, mixed nerve, which I gave you an example in the earlier part. In fact, I was wrong about the association neuron. So association neuron is a mixed nerve में ऐसा होता है कि वो दोनों काम करता है, of receiving also and sending also. So it is one which carries both sensory and motor neurons. For example, the nerve which goes into the tongue. So tongue also helps in speaking, at the same time it also acts as taste buds. So that's why it has got both the kinds of mixed nerves, that is, it has got motor neurons as well as sensory neurons. Now we talk about the human nervous system. So the following two divisions make up the human nervous system. The central nervous system or CNS, it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The brain lies within the skull and the spinal cord lies well protected within the vertebral column. So let's see one by one. Okay. The second one is the peripheral nervous system or the PNS. It consists of the nerves arising from or going to the central nervous system. These nerves are spread throughout the body. The peripheral nervous system has two subdivisions: somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system connects the CNS to the organs, muscles and skin. It carries motor and sensory information both to and from the CNS. Autonomic nervous system acts largely unconsciously and controls involuntary bodily activities such as heart rate, dilation and constriction of blood vessels, etc. Let's understand this. So what we know is that nervous system is divided into two parts. Okay, one is CNS, Central Nervous System, which consists of the brain and spinal cord. Okay, so the CNS contains the brain and the spinal cord. Central Nervous System. So it is the one which is well protected in the skull. Okay, skull के अंदर well protected is the brain, and spinal cord जो है that is well protected in the vertebral column, the backbone. The complete backbone has got the spinal cord passing through it. So spinal cord is well protected in that vertebral column, right? So that is central nervous system. The other one is peripheral nervous system, PNS, peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is further divided into two parts. The somatic and autonomous. Okay, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system are the two kinds of nervous system in the peripheral nervous system. The somatic is the one which is connecting the CNS to the sense organs. Okay, brain, तो स्पाइनल कॉर्ड से हैंड्स पे, लेग्स पे जो भी मूवमेंट हो रहा है, जो भी कनेक्शन है, that is done with the help of somatic nervous system. Well, autonomic nervous system is the one which is going to do internal work, all the involuntary work. Like I told you, heartbeat fast हो जाना, when you are scared, heartbeat fast हो जाना, goosebumps आना, okay, या तो बहुत ज़्यादा sweating हो जाना, right? All these activities are going to be done by the body under the category of autonomic nervous system. So in autonomic nervous system, there will be involuntary activities done by the body to cope up with certain things, okay, to certain conditions of the body. Let's see details about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So let's see what is there in the central nervous system. So in the central nervous system, the brain. So first thing is the brain. The brain has three main parts. So the three main parts of the brain are, so the brain has got three parts. First is cerebrum. Next is cerebellum. And the third is medulla oblongata. Okay. So these are the three parts, the cerebrum, cerebellum and the medulla oblongata as the three parts of the brain. Let's see one by one. What is cerebrum? The main part, cerebrum. If you want to see the cerebrum or something similar to cerebrum is one half of a walnut. When you open up a walnut, okay, the hard shell को निकालेंगे तो अंदर से दो चीज निकलता है, दो पार्ट निकलते हैं. The one part over there is very much similar to the cerebrum because that also has got two parts. That is the two hemispheres of the brain, left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So we can consider that the brain का अगर diagrammatically हम लोग को अगर draw देखना रहेगा हम लोग को तो it will be similar, very much similar to the walnut. Okay, cerebrum is the largest portion of the brain. It is divided into two, that is halves, that is right and the left, called the cerebral hemispheres. So this complete part over here is divided into two parts. So the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So these are the two parts over here. These are the two hemispheres of the. Their outer surface is folded with ridges and grooves. This is the walnut, you know, it has got so many ups and downs and it goes up, down and under. So they are called the ridges and grooves. Upward ridge, downward groove. तो वैसे बहुत सारे up and downs जो है, that complete movement which is there is what is called ridges and grooves. Each hemisphere is internally hollow Their walls have an outer and an inner portion. The outer portion contains cell bodies of the neuron and are called gray matter. So we understood neuron has got two bodies, the cell body, that is the cyton, and the axon. The cell body is gray in color. Okay, because it is gray in color, that's why the outer part of the brain is having the cyton, and hence we call it as the gray matter. Okay, so the outer part of the brain contains the cyton, which is called as the gray matter. It accommodates a large number of neurons. Human cerebrum contains about 9 billion neurons. Okay, there are 9 billion neurons, so it's huge quantity. The inner portion of the cerebrum mainly consists of axons. So all that particular axons, जो long wires जैसे थे, वो सब अंदर हमारे brain के अंदर है. So all the axons are moving around and they are white in color. That's why they are called as white matter. So inner portion of the cerebrum mainly consists of axon and is called white matter. The cerebrum is a seat of intelligence, consciousness, and willpower. It controls all the voluntary activities. So, very, very important. Intelligence. To remember, think, reason out, everything is intelligence. Consciousness. Okay. I want to do something on my own. Consciously, I want to do something. Okay. That is willpower. Yes. Determination to do something. Everything is going to come through the cerebrum. Okay. Cerebrum takes care of all these activities of intelligence, consciousness, and willpower. And hence it controls all the voluntary activities. Controls, not does. It does not do anything. It just controls. It just commands the other things to do it. Right? So that was about cerebrum. The next is cerebellum. So if I talk about the brain, so the brain has got this particular hemisphere part. So this is the cerebrum. Then over here is a small section over here which is called as the cerebellum. So cerebellum is much smaller and is located under the cerebrum. So just somewhere here. Here is the cerebellum. Okay. Its main function is to balance the body and to coordinate muscular activities. So balance the body. Okay. Body balance and muscle coordination. उठाने के लिए ये इसको एक्सटेंड करना, इसको रिलैक्स करना, तो वो जो भी है या movements of this fingers and everything, all these activities like speaking के टाइम पे भी टंग का movement वगैरह है, all their activities are going to be taken care of by the work of the cerebellum. So basically it will be this way that, like for example, I want to pick up this duster. Okay. So thinking about picking up the duster is done by the cerebrum. The cerebrum then commands or give information to the cerebellum that yes, you need to work on the part that I need to pick up this duster. So accordingly, the cerebellum will inform the muscles of the hand to go and pick up the duster. So the initiation of doing something starts with the cerebrum, but actual movement is going to be controlled with the help of the cerebellum. Right, so cerebellum decides when action, whereas the cerebellum implements the action. For example, if you get an idea to stand up and walk, it arises in the cerebrum, but the muscles involved in this process contract or relax under the control of the cerebellum. Cerebellum gets affected by alcohol. That is why an alcoholic is unable to coordinate his muscular movements properly. You must have seen many alcoholic people walking in the road. They are not able to balance themselves. Why? Because the muscle coordination or the body balance is going to be taken care of by the cerebellum. And in the influence of alcohol, whenever a person has alcohol, his cerebellum is affected, and that's why the cerebellum is not able to perform properly, and that's why he is not stable. Right? So this is the reason why an alcoholic would be walking unsteadily. The third part is medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is something which is just going to be यहाँ अंदर से बाहर कुछ निकलता है, that particular part over here, this part over here is the medulla oblongata. Okay. So medulla oblongata is the lowest part of the brain and continues into the spinal cord. So this particular thing continues further and then it is connected to the spinal cord. So this is the spinal cord. Okay. So medulla oblongata, very important part of our body. Why? All the involuntary activities of the body, involuntary activities, heartbeat, respiration, digestion, ये सब कौन कंट्रोल करता है? Medulla oblongata. So in case somebody's got hit over here and it damages the medulla oblongata, the person can die. Okay, so medulla oblongata is the lowest part of the brain and continues into the spinal cord. Its function is to control the activities of the internal organs, for example, beating of the heart, breathing, peristaltic movement of the alimentary canals, etc. Injury to the medulla may result in the death of the person. Okay, so very important part, and that's why people say that यहाँ पे नहीं मारना चाहिए. क्यों? Because medulla oblongata may get affected and it could give problems. Of course, काफी अंदर है, that dangerous नहीं है, but yeah, still it should avoid. So that was about the brain part, cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. We now move on to the next part, and that is the spinal cord present in the central nervous system. The spinal cord extends from the medulla of the brain and runs down almost through the whole length of the backbone. So right from the neck region to the lowermost part, that is the backbone, पूरा का पूरा जो अपना backbone है, that complete part is where the spinal cord is lying. In spinal cord, the arrangement of the white matter and grey matter is reversed from that of the brain. So here you can see that we studied that in the brain, the white matter is the axon was inside and the grey matter, which was the cyton, is outside. But as I told you, in the spinal cord, the cyton is over here and the axon is going outside. So what happens? The inner part of the spinal cord will be grey matter and the outer part will be white matter. So the structure wise, the structure of the spinal cord is opposite to the structure of the brain. Brain में grey matter outside, white matter inside, where spinal cord में grey matter inside, white matter outside. So in the spinal cord, the arrangement of the white matter grey matter is reversed from in the brain. Here the inner part is the grey matter made up of cell bodies, while the outer part is the white matter made up of axons. The main function of the spinal cord are, so there are three main functions of the spinal cord. First one, controls reflexes below the neck. इसके नीचे, neck के नीचे जो भी reflexes हो रहे हैं, अपने हाथ का movement, ये जो any movement below the neck is going to be controlled with the help of the spinal cord. All the reflexes, okay, like touch किया, गरम था, हाथ निकालना, हाथ रखा वहाँ पे, एक nail था तो nail मुझे चुभा तो मैंने हाथ withdraw कर दिया, suddenly brakes apply किया. So all these are the reflexes below the neck which are going to be controlled with the help of the spinal cord. Second is to conduct message from the skin and the muscle to the brain. So whatever message the skin or the muscle is going to get from outside, that particular message needs to be traveling to the brain or to be informed to the brain. So that part is going to be done with the help of the spinal cord. And finally, conducts commands from the brain to the muscle or the trunk or torso and limbs. So of course, the brain is going to instruct some muscle, like for example, I told you I want to lift this duster. तो जब ये duster lift करना था तो भी क्या किया, brain ने spinal cord को बोला और spinal cord ने ये muscles को बोला और accordingly muscle ने काम किया. So that's why you got the three main functions of the spinal cord. First is all the reflexes below the neck. Secondly, impulses or the conduction of the message from the sense organs to the brain to the brain or the muscle to the brain, or from the brain to the muscle or the gland. So all these three are the different functions of the spinal cord. So accordingly we see that the parts of the central nervous system are brain and spinal cord. Brain contains three parts: cerebrum, which is the seat of intelligence, consciousness, memory and willpower; cerebellum, which takes care of the muscular coordination and body balance; and medulla takes care of the breathing, digestion, beating of the heart, etc. The spinal cord controls the reflexes below the neck, conducts a message from the skin and muscle to the brain, and conducts the commands from the brain to the muscle or trunk and limbs. So this is about the central nervous system. We now move on to the next part, that is the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system consists of nerves which connect the central nervous system to all parts of the body. So, brain, spinal cord, only this much part. Okay, brain and spinal cord, only this much part. हाथ वगैरह बाकी है. तो ये जो मूवमेंट, ये जो कनेक्शन है of the CNS to the different sense organs like hands and legs and everything is done with the help of peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system is divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system, somatic and autonomic. The somatic nervous system has got two sets of nerves. So this has got two sets of nerves. The first one is cranial and the next one is spinal. Cranial, head. The head region, cranial. From here down is all spine. Okay? Whatever is connected to the head, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, all these are connected to the cranial nerves. It is the cranial nerves which bring all those informations to the brain from these organs. Lower than this are all the ones which are connected to the hands, legs and everything, and they are called as the spinal nerves. Okay, so that's the two things. Cranial nerves emerge from the brain. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. So there are 12 cranial nerves. Out of these, the most famous ones are sensory, like olfactory of the nose, optic for the eye, auditory for the ear. Okay. Then there will be motor, like now going from the eye muscles, and the mixed nerve, those going to and from the face and the tongue. So overall, the different kinds of cranial nerves, they already given you about 5 to 6 of them. So nose, eye, ear are the three which are the sensory ones. The eye is also having a motor nerve because it also does the work of vision को ये करने के लिए eyeball छोटा, but eyeball नहीं, but pupil छोटा बड़ा होता है, तो that is also done with it. And finally is the mixed nerve, which is on the face and the tongue. Like tongue helps you not only to speak but also to taste. So दोनों चीज कर रहा है, so that's why you need such kind of a mixed nerve. So that's why there are 12 cranial nerves. Spinal nerves are 31. So there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves which arise from the spinal cord. A typical spinal nerve is a mixed nerve. Each pair of nerves consists of a sensory nerve that carries message from sensory organs such as the skin to the brain or spinal cord. In reverse, there is a motor nerve that brings order from the brain or spinal cord to the effector organ such as the gland or muscle. It involves both voluntary and involuntary activities. So the spinal nerves, there are 31 such nerves, and all these nerves are mixed nerves. Why? Because they have got both the kinds of neurons. They have got sensory neuron also and motor neuron also. Like suppose this hand is there. It is able to sense, at the same time it is also able to control the movement. So the sense one is going to give the information to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord in turns the muscles to do the action. So that's why there will be such 31 pairs of nerves which are going to be there as spinal nerves. So one from the sense organs to that will be the sensory nerve, and one from the spinal cord to the motor will be the effector organ or gland is called the motor nerve. So that was about the somatic nervous system. Now we move on to the autonomic nervous system. As I told you, autonomic nervous system is something which is going to be internal, okay, involuntary activities को handle करने वाला, that is autonomic. The autonomic nervous system consists of a pair of chain of nerves and ganglia, a mass of cyton of nerve cells. So combination, when two nerve cells are combined together, तो उसके बाद में वहाँ पे जो junction box जैसा बनता है, that is nothing but the ganglia. So pair of chain of nerves and ganglia, a mass of cytons, found on either side of the backbone. So on either side of the backbone है, तो उसके दोनों side पे there are these kind of autonomic nervous system. The system controls the involuntary activities of the internal organs. It operates through two systems. So this operates under two systems. One is sympathetic, another is parasympathetic. Okay? Sympathetic and parasympathetic are the two conditions or the two ways this particular autonomic nervous system is going to act. So it operates, this system controls involuntary activities of the internal organs. It operates through two systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, which are antagonistic in their actions. Antagonistic means opposite in the action. अगर sympathetic जो है condition, उसमें अगर मेरे हार्ट बीट फास्ट होते हैं तो पैरासिम्पैथेटिक उसको स्लो करेगा. अगर सिंपैथेटिक में मेरा ब्लड वेसल्स कॉन्स्ट्रिक्ट हो रहा है तो पैरासिम्पैथेटिक उसको डेलिएट करेगा, रिलीज करेगा. ओके, राइट. सो इफ सिंपैथेटिक इज ट्राइंग टू मेक माय रेस्पिरेशन फास्टर, द पैरासिम्पैथेटिक इज गोइंग टू calm me down and put my respiration back to normal. So that's how the body is going to act. Sympathetic is going to enhance certain things. Parasympathetic is going to make it normal again. So that's why they are called as opposite actions or antagonistic movements. For example, in times of fear, the sympathetic nervous system dilates the pupil of the eye, constricts the vessel of the skin, and accelerates the heart rate. The parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for the constriction of the pupil of the eyes, dilation of the blood vessels, and slowing down of the heart rate. So you can see that one condition is going to increase, that is, they are given that in case of a sympathetic condition, the pupil of the eye is dilating, okay, constrict the vessels of the skin, and accelerate the heartbeat. तो exactly उसका उल्टा कर रहा है पैरासिम्पैथेटिक. पैरासिम्पैथेटिक क्या कर रहा है, जो आई का प्यूपिल जो डेलिएट हो गया था उसको कंस्ट्रिक्ट करेगा, जो वेसल्स ऑफ द स्किन कंस्ट्रिक्ट हो गए थे उसको डिलिएट कर देंगे, एंड जो हार्ट रेट फास्ट हो गया था उसको स्लो डाउन कर देगा. सो दैट्स व्हाई opposite actions are going to be done by sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So this was about the nervous system. Now we also see in the nervous system there is something else which is called as the voluntary action and the involuntary action. Now the nervous system acts in two ways. The action or response being voluntary, that is performed consciously by us, and involuntary, performed unconsciously by us. So something which we are doing consciously, like I want to blink, okay, I am blinking. So that is consciousness. But when I am speaking, suddenly in between I blink a bit. So that is unconsciousness. Okay. So these, when I am lifting this pen, it is consciousness. But when I am breathing, it is unconsciousness. Okay. So in this way, there are two methods by which the nervous system is going to act. One is called as voluntary action, and the other is involuntary action. So the voluntary action occurs knowingly. For example, you wish to watch some program on a TV and you switch it on and press the remote for a particular channel. Similarly, you pick up an apple and eat it. So you doing a very particular function as per your own will is voluntary action. Involuntary action occurring unknowingly, also called reflex. For example, some particles fall into the eye and there is an immediate flushing of tears to wash out the particle, glandular secretion. Instantaneous video of the hand when it accidentally touches a hot iron, so that's a muscular movement. So if I touch something hot, immediately I withdraw my hand. That is nothing but involuntary action. I am not doing it in purpose, but my body is doing it to protect me in a way. Okay, so that's when involuntary action, which is called as a reflex. So we'll learn more about the reflex sections in the next video. We'll stop the video for this part.